He sells me well. 5 weeks ago, no one had heard of Corbenomics, including me. They have now. I checked at 1 o'clock today how many hits there were for it on Google. 123,000. And over that 5 years, something quite extraordinary has happened. And I want to reflect on that for a minute. Because we've had letters for it, 40 from economists in the Observer, 55 from economists in the FT saying that they didn't like it. But actually, there was one thing that they all said in common. A thing that they wouldn't have said but for Jeremy. They all said, now is the time for this country to invest. And they were quite clear about what we should be investing in. Infrastructure, schools, houses, transport systems, sustainable energy, decent broadband outside city centres, please. Heartfelt plea. And a lot more with science. And that was whichever side of the debate they came from. And what is more, they said, we can afford it. They didn't say, let's wait until austerity's worked. They didn't say, no one can borrow for it. They said, all of those things are possible now. Now that's an extraordinary achievement of this campaign so far. Because I don't think, before Jeremy stood to lead the Labour Party, that such an agreement could have been delivered. They might argue about how it's done, but the point is, the debate has already changed, and that's before Jeremy is leader of the Labour Party. It's quite an astonishing achievement so far. But it is just a start. This is a policy. And Jeremy has been very clear. But it isn't cast in stone. It will change. It will develop. But the principles are very clearly there. Those principles are what is different about Corbenomics. People come first. People before banks. Employees having priority over shareholders. Taxpayers having priority over executive bonuses. Housing, schools and transport having priority over bailing out the financial sector one more time. I don't see those principles changing because they are the basis of the economics this country needs. An economics that will deliver, in my opinion, 4 things. Jobs. And people need jobs. Not just jobs, but jobs that pay appropriately. A living wage and more that are secure, where there can be union representation and equal opportunities and apprenticeships and training and rights. That sort of job. That's what this is about. Policy to deliver growth, real, sustainable growth. And put those two together, and this policy will deliver increasing tax revenues, because more people at work with more money in their pockets, earning more, pay more tax. And so, as a result, as an accidental byproduct, not as the focus of the policy, I make that quite clear, but as an accidental byproduct, it will happen to balance the budget in a way that George Osborne will never match. Politics from a man who cares not about balancing the books, but about you. And that's going to be increasingly important. Because even since I made my first speech of this sort a few weeks ago, we've seen China going into economic crisis. We've seen it begin to drag the economies in the emerging markets with it. We've seen the development, the first stages potentially, of the next financial downturn. I'm not saying crisis, I'm not saying recession, but quite clearly something that is going wrong and which could well lead to a downturn. This is going to upset the government's plans. There will be a deficit in 2020. There will be a massive lack of investment. There will be little or no wages growth, and there will be unemployment. And because George Osborne's plans, the detail of his plans, require that the people of this country and the businesses of this country go into more debt than they were in 2008. That is the requirement of his balancing the books. It can't happen otherwise. Because of that, we face the risk of 2008 all over again. And that's precisely why we've had to put forward, Jeremy has used some ideas that I created, alternative plans as to how we can manage the economy. Because we can't do 2008 again, and we can't risk being caught without the answers this time. A responsible leader of the opposition has an alternative plan, and that's precisely what Corbenomics is. So, Corbenomics will deliver the investment I've already talked about. It will create a national investment bank in this country to deliver that. It's being treated as if it's the most radical thing you can imagine. But yeah, Germany's got one, France has got one, Norway's got one, most countries have got one. We haven't got one. Damn it, we need one. And yes, we're going to have one if Jeremy Corbyn is going to lead the Labour Party. And something that has, I admit, upset quite a lot of people is that Jeremy has borrowed my ideas on quantitative easing. You have to get used to saying quantitative in public. People's quantitative easing is a way in which, quite simply, and let's be blunt about it, we can use money at the lowest possible cost to deliver the investment we need. That is all it is. Some people have accused me of complex financial engineering and all sorts of shenanigans. Yeah, it's just to save you money so you get the schools, the hospitals, the roads, the transport systems and everything else at the lowest possible cost. What is wrong with that? I don't tell you what's wrong with that, by the way. It's very obvious. Bankers don't make money out of PFI anymore. Bankers don't make money out of expensive loans which they make to the governments anymore. Oh, and bankers won't control monetary policy in this country because I had the temerity to suggest actually that the Bank of England should be under democratic control, which is apparently going to rock the entire state to its foundations. I don't think so. At the same time, there are other aspects of Corbenomics which have caught some attention. One is that it will tackle inequality. Two deep hotbeds of socialism have demanded that the UK tackle this issue, the rising wealth and income inequality in this country. They are the International Monetary Fund and the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. They have said the time has come to close down that gap. And Jeremy is saying, yes, he will. And the progressive taxation is a part of that process. Progressive taxation, quite simply, the rule that says the best off must pay more because they've got the most money. It's not rocket science, is it? And Jeremy's going to ask the question, I hope, why do they have so much money? Why is it that the leading bosses in this country are paid 183 times more than the average worker in this country? Is that right? I suggest it isn't. But if it isn't, then we have to make change. And that's why Jeremy's talking about looking at the way in which business is organised, managed and controlled. So putting workers on the boards, making sure that pension funds act in the interest of the pensioners who pay the money in and not in the interest of the city. This is about holding people to account, and surely that is what politicians should be doing. I've heard your enthusiasm for tax already. I'm excited by tax. I have a book coming out in a couple of weeks' time called The Joy of Tax. There you go. But we will, I hope, see a Labour Party that is committed to tackling the tax gap. Now, I estimate this figure is 120 billion, and I'm well aware that there are those who say that's far too high, and the revenue says 35 billion, and we haven't got time to explain why my method of calculation is different from theirs, and actually you can reconcile the two, but mine, well, I think it's right. But there are two groups of people who actually I think are quite important in thinking it's right. First of all, that work was done for PCS, the union that represents about 40,000 or more of the staff at HM Revenue and Customs. They've got some way of doing this right. But some of the calculations came from the other union, ARC, who represents staff. And I am, with a point that everybody ignores, suggesting that £1 billion is spent to recover 20 billion of that missing money. I'm not saying it will turn up without somebody putting some effort in. £20 billion is £1 billion is 20,000 new jobs to get this. And we need those jobs. Because over the last 10 years, 40,000 people have left HM Revenue and Customs. And as a mysterious consequence, the tax chiefs have had a field day. That has to end. And this process of change is really what I wanted to summarise this with. I think you thought you were coming for some sort of rally tonight, I hope you did. Well, actually, you've come for a funeral. Tonight we're going to bury Tina. Margaret Thatcher's claim that there is no alternative. Is saying there is an alternative. Jeremy Corbyn is saying we can do politics differently, and that's the opportunity that he's created. That's what Corbenomics is about. This is our chance for change. Please take it.